Yeah, my dogs, they won last night, got that 25-point dub over there in Boston without Tatum, to let that be noted. So, who do you think is the biggest winner here? Boston staying alive, New York having a chance to win it in their building, or the Pacers, who's just like sitting outside while these guys are dueling it out?
All right, before I say what I think, a little birdie told me you now think the Celtics are going to complete the comeback. Is that
They
correct?
gotta 100%. They gotta win the next game. They gotta win
Well,
game six.
well, yeah,
Obviously they have to win game six to win the series.
yeah.
But I'm just saying, if the Knicks lose this next game, the Celtics aren't gonna lose game seven. We're obviously built to lose a player. It's our best player, but I think we can definitely deal with the Knicks without Tatum, as we showed last night.
Okay. That's going to be a very common opinion today. That sometimes Demonze and I do this show, and Demonze, who has didn't go to school for sports broadcasting. Really, it was never like, it's not, people maybe don't know this, but like, and maybe they'll be surprised by it. It's not like Demonze growing up with me was like, oh man, I want to follow my dad's footsteps and
Yeah.
do sports media. Like that's not what this was ever. So it was just kind of a happy accident, thanks to our friends at Blue Duck, that you and I ended up trying this together, and now we've done it for what, four
I was
years,
supposed to just be
3 years.
setting up the cameras.
Exactly right. And but sometimes Demonze has a take, despite that lack of what we would call classical training, that is then almost the exact same take I hear on TV, or sometimes I hear from Brew or Wilds later in the day, and it always makes me happy. It makes me happier when I think it's a good take, unlike this one, which I think is
Yeah, I was like,
going to
where are we
be
going here?
a very commonly held misbegotten take. So I think there is going to be a considerable overreaction to last night. A game where the Knicks, understandably, were going to be feel a little bit of a less sense of urgency. A game where Boston was going to have the energy of the crowd, and a game where it was tied at halftime, and then Brunson gets 5 fouls in 8 minutes, and the game's over, like there. And so here is why listen, good for Boston. Here is why I think you are overstating how well Boston is built to handle the loss of Tatum.
Okay.
Now, it is good they got Sam Hauser back yesterday. And, his injury in game one of this series was significant. And, not having him available to come off the bench hurt them in the middle part of this series. It's nice they got him back. But the Celtics obviously don't have Jayson Tatum. They also, for all intents and purposes, don't have Kristaps Porzingis. Listen, happy for Luke Cornett that he had that game last night. That is not duplicable on any level at any time again. Derek White's awesome. I don't think he's got another 34-point game in his future.
That's more duplicable though. That can
Well,
happen
it's
again.
certainly more than Luke Cornett damn near
Seven
having a triple
blocks.
double. And so I look at game 6, and the other thing was Towns was kind of got himself out of it with foul trouble.
Per usual.
OG was horrifying in this game, was 1 for 12. Mikal Bridges, who I thought was going to play really well, he didn't. He was 4 for 14. So all of those things conspired to where the Knicks, and then the Knicks also, let go of the rope a bit. So I think the Knicks will win Friday. But here is maybe the more controversial opinion. Or not controversial, but unconventional opinion. Even if they lose Friday, I think they absolutely can win a game 7 in Boston. I think that the Boston Celtics, the idea of the Boston Celtics is very different than the current reality of the Boston Celtics, which is the Boston Celtics right now are a team whose best player is Jaylen Brown, whose second best player is Derek White, whose third and fourth best players are guys in their mid to late 30s in Holiday and Horford, who have not yet shown at any point in this series they can, in back-to-back games, give you high-level impactful minutes. And then we're down to the Pritchard Cornette tier of guys because Kristaps is out. He's not out, but he might as well be. Kristaps is not giving you anything. Tatum is out. And I just don't think Holiday and Horford are going to be as effective in Game 6 with a day rest as they were in Game 5. And so, for all those reasons, I think that and throw in the rundown. What are the DraftKings? Okay, you already did. Good job, guys. Boston is down to plus 225 to win the series. So the Knicks are probably like minus 260. I think that the Knicks take care of business in 6, and even if they don't, minus 275 for New York. I think that Jalen Brunson in a Game 7 is not going to be intimidated by a place where he won Games 1 and 2. Now, I will say this. For the Knicks' chances of making the finals, Game 7 avoiding a Game 7 is super valuable to them. And having a little more time off, especially because the Pacers play at such an insane pace and because the Pacers are so deep. Now, I want to ask you, this is one of those things that just don't clip this. If someone else clips it, it's fine. Let's say you're right, DeMonze. This is just a theoretical question. And by the way, there is no value judgment here, okay? We all agree last night Jayson Tatum was rooting for the Celtics. And we all agree that in Game 6, he will be rooting for the Celtics. If they pull this off, is there any point in these playoffs where what you would call, I guess, those intrusive thoughts in his head is like, okay, we can lose now. We can. All right. It's like, and maybe this is an indictment on me, but like if I all of a sudden, if I had to have some type of like medical procedure and they're like, man, Nick's going to be out for first things first for the next 3 months. In the beginning, I would be like, all right, fellas, keep it rolling. You know what I mean? Keep it rolling. I'd be really happy. If like 3 weeks in, I saw a PR alert and it was like first things first, record-setting ratings. And then like a week later, it was like Emmy nominated. At some point, I might be like, all right, we can have some rough shows here. Like, and so go ahead.
I could see that being the thought process, but yeah, man, I think
it's not an indictment, and that's not Tatum specific. That is
it's a human characteristic.
Right. And I would be saying that same thing if, let's say Steph's injury, instead of being one, Steph obviously really wanted the Warriors to somehow pull it out because he was coming back. Right. And he's like, if you get to stay alive, I can come, or maybe he was coming back.
Right.
But if Steph's injury was like where he's out 3 months, I feel like there'd be a point where Steph would be like, okay, you can beat the Timberwolves, but let's not get a ring here. I don't know. All right, so let's do a Celtics follow-up before we get to the other stuff.
Yeah, so now that Tatum's injury is officially official and he's likely to miss all of next year, you've had more time to think about it. Which dominoes have been affected the most?
Well, did we talk about, I think one of the first non-Celtics related dominoes is, what does this mean for Giannis?
Yeah.
Does Giannis decide, I'll give it one more year? Does Giannis decide, I still want to be traded, but staying East if I can sure seems attractive to me? Like, where, what does Giannis, how does Giannis look at this as far as what his decision should be? Because, and this was the thing I might have said on Tuesday, if Giannis goes west and Tatum is out for the year, next year, the All-NBA teams, I would imagine, the East has 3 guys that have would be, All-NBA is the wrong way to do it. Just of the 15 best players in the sport, the East has 3 of them. Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, Tyrese Halliburton, and everyone else is out west. And so the other major domino that this impacts obviously is Celtics related, which is they were already going to trim salary somewhat. Now I think they probably have to trim it massively. And if I'm a Celtic fan, I am just kind of at peace with the fact that the next time Tatum plays, the team is going to look very, very different. And I trust Mazzulla, and I really trust Brad Stevens. What I am hoping for is the next time Tatum plays, Jaylen Brown is still his wingman, because we have proof of concept that works. And I would be a little nervous if I were Boston at Ime Udoka and the Rockets poking around my team this offseason. And I guess nervous is the wrong word because it's all via trade. But if Celtics are going to come available, I would think Ime Udoka and the Houston Rockets, if they don't get Giannis, would be the team that is potentially most interested there, and what that means. Now, again, you trust Brad Stevens to make good trades, and he's been very, very good. So those are my biggest kind of takeaways now that we know. We talked a lot about this on Tuesday because we didn't know, but we kind of knew that it was going to be what it was.